Well, joining us in the studio to discuss more on this is lawyer, public affairs analyst, Jide Ologun. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, too. It's my pleasure to be here.
Right. And from our Abuja studio is a spokesman, Joint Task Forum, member, House of Reps, representing Egbeda Onara, Oyo State, Honorable Akin Alabi. Good morning. Thank you for joining us and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Right. Let me begin with you, Honorable. The dust, like our correspondent said, has settled despite the consultations, the horse trading, and all of it. Give us the behind-the-scene account of what happened yesterday, because a lot of persons did not expect that the process would go as smooth as it did.
Well, only those that did not follow the campaign will be surprised at what happened yesterday. I was here a couple of times, and I gave updates what was going on. I talked about consultations. I talked about meeting stakeholders, meeting state caucuses, zonal caucuses, meeting state governors, meeting party leaders to sell our message, to sell our candidates, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, the Speaker, and Honorable Benjamin Kalu, the now Deputy Speaker. And leading to the election yesterday, we had different caucuses endorsing Honorable Abbas. I remember 2 days before I think, was it a day before yesterday? The South caucus, 55 members, 100% of them, all of them endorsed Tajuddin Abbas. Southwest caucus, about 71 of us, about 69 of us endorsed Tajuddin Abbas. So it was a landslide leading to the election. It wasn't a surprise. We ran the campaign, it was an open book. So what happened was something anyone could have seen if you're a student of Nigeria's politics and Nigeria's parliament.
All right, let me come to you, Jide. A lot of persons were actually expecting a lot of fireworks, especially when some persons decided they were going to contest until the last day. As much as the party was saying, let us toe the line, in fact, within the party, they expected there has to be like a kind of a consensus going into the day yesterday. But some persons decided, no, I have the right to contest, I have an interest, and so on. Some persons were expecting some fireworks, but we saw the landslide, like Honorable Alabi has said. What do you think was responsible for that seamlessness? And everything moved on so peacefully. There was no rancor, there was no controversies, there were no confrontations. It just went so smooth. What do you think was responsible for all of that?
We talk about proactivity. You saw a lot of consultations that went on, like the Honorable said, and learning from the past. You recall that in 2015, how Saraki emerged was a deep shock to the APC. And a wise man said, if you don't learn from your setbacks, you will always be set back. So this time around, enough groundworks were done to ensure that you harmonize interest. You know, I have looked at Nigeria. We may be differentiated by the caps we wear, but the needs of the nation are the same. And if you keenly look at what has happened in the most recent time, the geopolitical zones appear to be well represented in how you balance the power structure. You know, and that was what the Vice President, Shetima, was making reference to, because he brought in the angle of religion.
Yes.
So you saw APC this time around showing class. And for those who did not step down, some did, I commend them. Democracy is about participation. You know, participatory democracy is crucial. And to let those who won know it's not for fun. And of course, it's their fundamental right to get involved in the contest. But here we are now. The leadership has been established. And what we should be talking about really is how do we now benefit from this leadership and focus on the mandate of having the National Assembly. You know, if you look at Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, it says that National Assembly shall make laws for the peace, order, and good governance of Nigeria. So we have lawmaking, we have oversight functions, we have control of our funds, appropriation, and ensuring that the laws that we have in place are implemented. And they'll be working through committees and ensure that we have an enhanced quality of life for the citizens and make Nigeria prosperous. And I think now that they are still busy celebrating the victories, they should look ahead and learn a huge lesson that this is the 10th National Assembly, and Akpabio has described it as unusual. So we really want it to be unusual by escalating the benefits to the people.
Right. All right, let's bring it back to you now, Honorable Alabi. You've heard our guest in the studio talking about how the Senate President has said it's an unusual assembly and Nigerians are looking forward to that unusualness. They have also gone ahead to talk about addressing matters of economy and security. And we hear Honorable Tajuddin Abbas saying that in the coming weeks that the legislative agenda will be put forward on how to move on the National Assembly. Give us a sense of what Nigerians should look forward to with this current National Assembly.
The elections have come and gone. We've had our inauguration, but there's still a lot of housekeeping to do. There's a lot of work to be done in-house. For example, we had a presiding officers elections. There's still going to be the appointments of the principal officers, the house leaders, and the minority parties, and we expect all the parties to be heavily involved. The APC to provide the majority leader and whips, and the other parties combined to come up with the minority leaders and minority whips. So that's got to be done. That's got to be done. Then after that, we're going to have the committees, because like the other guest said, he said it rightly that we're going to work through various committees because the speaker is only one person. We're going to work through various committees, and that will be constituted as well. We are going to adjourn for a couple of weeks. That's the tradition after the first week of inauguration. That's, I think, on Thursday. So a lot of housekeeping is going to be done. But we can see from the executive arm of government that we've already hit the ground running with this administration. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president, has made some giant strides that even his ardent critics are saying, wow, we never knew Asiwaju was this fantastic. I wonder if you followed Asiwaju, definitely you know that he's a fantastic administrator. Then we're going to follow suit. We're ready to cooperate with him. We know that the Night Assembly was a very, very productive assembly. Landslide, watershed legislations like the KAMA Act, like the Electoral Act, which we still have to improve, actually. A lot of constitutional amendments, moving a lot of items from the executive list to exclusive list to the concurrent list. A lot of things were done in the National Assembly, even though we've been unfairly judged by the public, which I think is a bit of our fault because we didn't really project.
How do you mean you were unfairly judged? How do you mean you were unfairly judged? You need to expatiate on that, because if the Night Assembly did something exceptional, Nigerians will judge them accordingly, don't you think?
I think maybe we should do better with our own communication and with our own, should I say, PR? I can find a better term to use. Because as I was saying, we passed some acts that have laid dormant in Parliament for decades. And Night Assembly is known for what we've been able to do with it from PIB to PIA.
The petroleum industry. What those bills were.
I didn't get you.
Give us an insight into what those bills that you said were passed are.
I didn't hear you well.
Give us an insight into what those bills are. what specifically they are addressing or they addressed.
For example, the Kama Act, for example, makes it that you don't have to pay company income tax if your profits are not much. If your profits are less than 25 million, there are different bands, 25 million up to 100 million. If you're not making that much money, you're not going to pay company income tax. And that's a good one for small business owners who are always afraid of all these different taxes. They don't even know how they're going to, how much they're supposed to pay and all that. You don't get to pay so income tax on your business. That's just an example of the Kama Act that we're able to pass. So I was talking about a constitutional amendment moving electricity distribution from exclusive list. In the Constitution, we have the exclusive list, we have the concurrent list. Exclusively, for those that don't know, the exclusive list is what only the federal government can do, and concurrent is what both the federal government and states can do. And we have too many things on the exclusive list, which is hindering the progress of the country. And we've been able to move a lot of things from the exclusive list to concurrent list. I would like to see more, for example, police. I would like to move from exclusive to concurrent. Yeah, but we still, that's what the 10th Assembly should do now. We're going to consolidate on the gains of the 9th Assembly. So if the 9th Assembly were able to do 70%, we want to do 90%, we want to make the 10th Assembly the best ever.
All right. Let me stay with you a little bit, Honorable Alabi. The point there is a lot of persons have the, let me use the word assumption very intentionally here, because we've spoken to some members of the House of Representatives and even some members of the National Assembly who say that, well, the insinuations about the allowances is not as much as what people assume. But the point there is, one would say that the cost of governance in Nigeria, from the federal to state and to even local governments, as the case may be, is quite enormous. And those are funds that should have been channeled, or part of it, not everything, but part of it is what should be channeled into either education, infrastructure, housing, health, agriculture, and other things. That so much money is concentrated on payment of remuneration for politicians and all of that. What concerns do you have in that regard, or are you comfortable with the way it is, or something needs to change?
I welcome all forms of cutting cost of governance. I welcome it 100%. And I like the way you asked the question. You balanced it. You didn't try to scapegoat the National Assembly, because that's one of the problems I have with this question when it arises. Cost of governance, it's everywhere. It's in the executive arm of government, legislative arm of government, maybe judiciary, and across levels, federal government, state government, even local government, as you rightly mentioned. So if we're going to tighten our belts, why not? Let's look at it across board. What I've always found hypocritical is people coming out to say, hey, only the National Assembly's cost of governance should reduce. And listen, and when people talk about the budget of National Assembly, some people either ignorantly or mischievously say this amount is going to 400 people, which is not the truth. Any budget that goes to the National Assembly is for the thousands of workers working there, our brothers, our sisters, our mothers and fathers working with the National Assembly Commission. Thousands of them, their salaries, their leave allowance, their pensions and all that, is being paid out of this money being budgeted in the National Assembly. So we have to look at things across board. There are so many agencies we look at. If you take a look at our agencies and the executive arm of government, and you wonder what are they doing in this agency? This agency, they don't even have a particular mandate, or the mandate is being repeated by another agency that exists, and there's budgetary allocation for all these different agencies doing the same job. So definitely, we've all talked about the Orosanye report and merging of agencies, cutting costs and all that in government, and we'll welcome anything that the president-elect decides to do on how to move the country forward.
Right. We need to quickly go on a break. When we return, we'll continue this conversation. Just stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We've been looking at the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly and the task ahead of them. We have our guests. In our Lagos studio, we have the lawyer, public affairs analyst, Jide Olugun. And from our Abuja studio, we have a spokesman, Joint Task Forum, member House of Reps, representing Egbeda Onara, Oyo State, Honorable Akin Alabi. Let me come to you now, Honorable Alabi. There is the concern that now that we have seen that party supremacy took center stage yesterday, there are concerns for Nigerians with regards to the matter of having a rubber stamp 10th assembly. How do you assuage these concerns Nigerians are having? Yes, the president has said that he wants to walk with the National Assembly, but there are concerns with not having a rubber stamp National Assembly.
Well, I'll address this matter. I've been asked this question over and over again on different platforms, and I'm going to answer it. I'm going to say some things in case we have viewers that have never heard me speak about this. It is normal practice for the majority party to say, this is the person we want to head the parliament. It's normal in democracy, especially in a presidential system of government. One of the, if not the strongest democracy in the world, is the United States democracy. And the United States Congress is extremely strong. The majority party decides who they want as speaker and not Senate president, because they don't technically have a Senate president, because the vice president is automatically the Senate president. So we'll talk about the House of Representatives. So the majority party decides who they want as leader. In the last midterm elections, before the midterm elections, Democrats were the majority party. But as soon as some districts were flipped from blue to red, the Republican Party got involved, and Donald Trump, being the leader of the party, said, I want Rep. McCarthy as the speaker. And after a lot of elections on the floor, Rep. McCarthy today is the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Because the party says this is who we want, doesn't mean it's going to be a rubber stamp Congress. I mentioned earlier on that we're going to have the principal officers being appointed in a few days. And the PDP and the other parties will say these are the people we want for the minority leadership role. So it's a very, very normal practice. It has nothing to do with the job that we are going to do. We're going to do our job normally. Look, the Ninth Assembly, I said this the other time. If you look at the motions, if you look at the bills, if you look at the minutes of our meetings, oversight, you will think the party in Congress and Parliament is an opposition party to the executive because of the things that we do. A lot of the work we do is not in plenary. A lot of 80% of the work we do is outside the chambers, outside the plenary, from committee meetings, oversight functions, and so on. There's a lot of fight. There's a lot of disagreement. There's a lot of pushback. It's not everything that the executive brings that we accept. We push back a lot. We fight a lot. So I want Nigerians to rest assured that because the party got involved in the leadership of the House, that means that the executive is going to walk over the legislature. It's not going to work like that. We're going to have a very robust, we're going to work together. As my friend, the current Deputy Speaker, Honorable Benjamin Kalu said, some people think the best parliament is the one with the biggest boxing gloves. No, you have to work harmoniously with the executive, and we're sure Nigerians that we're going to deliver good governance.
All right, this issue of rubber stamp is something that comes up every time. Do you feel that a lot of people misunderstand what the issue of rubber stamping is in the context of the relationship between the legislature and the executive arm of government? A lot of people feel that the more the fight, the more it feels they're working. But if bills are passed on that way, then it's a rubber stamp. Do we really understand what the issue or the idea of rubber stamping is?
Let me proceed from a brilliant statement that Honorable Alabi made, that we look at what the president wants to do. I doubt if I have ever seen a blank rubber stamp. Rubber stamps bear impressions that you now transfer on another object.
Right.
So what are you bringing to the National Assembly? You know, I did a study. The first time Nigeria borrowed externally was in 1964 to build a dam. And the parliament followed through. You know, when you talk about the National Assembly, apart from lawmaking and representation, you talk about oversight, and you talk about control of public funds, transparency. Why, Mr. President, are you going to borrow? How does it translate to benefits to the people? How are we going to pay back? You know, so we studied this in school, checks and balances. And let me say this, Honorable Abi said they have been misjudged. And as a public relations practitioner, I love the fact that he made reference to public relations. That is correct, because the people who should benefit really from democracy at the high end are suffering. So they won't appreciate what you do in those chambers until these activities translate to welfare to them. Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1990 amended says that the security and the welfare of the citizens shall be the primary purpose of government. So I expect that the National Assembly, whether by rubber stamp or whatever, we queue behind the president that we must deal with insecurity in Nigeria. I did a study on parliaments across the world, the best parliaments across the world. If you look at Denmark, the parliament is called Folketing, which means the people's thing. It's about the people. You look at Switzerland. Switzerland has about 246 members. They have a bicameral legislature too. And the focus is on education. You look at Finland. You check. So the National Assembly is the unique element in democracy. You don't have another military system of government. So I expect, and I must commend our President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on his stakeholders' engagement. And if it is sustained, we must make a success of this tenure. So the people are waiting. And let me emphasize representation. We have 109 senators, 360 House of Reps members to represent constituencies. So how does development come? Even beyond the Abuja structure and everything, your constituencies want to benefit. And there are key areas now. The economy. Okay, Asiwaju said on the day of inauguration that subsidy is gone. How can the National Assembly step in now to ensure that the right support is given? Recall the Petroleum Industry Act. Look at the provisions that may not favor us. You know, these are issues that we are talking about. How do you now move Nigeria to the next level? I've listened to our president tell Akpabio and all of them that we are going to walk and walk together. You know, and like he said, I must give this to the Night Assembly. A lot of bills were translated into act, into law, and it is still ongoing. There were some on the table of the president, President Mahmoud, former president, that he did not. Asiwaju is now endorsing. So if we focus on energy, for instance, it helps us with the industrialization move we need in the country. Look at this subsidy removal. Now people are beginning to realize, and some of us have been saying that there are some neighboring countries that are just feeding fat on this country. And there are some crooks who just share about 7 trillion annually. So why wouldn't they sponsor terrorism? So you need to cut off all these excesses. When you talk about wealth, your revenue drive is important. And if you have leakages in your revenue drive, the journey will be too far for you. So we block all those loopholes, attract direct foreign investment by, limiting the insecurity in the land, because it's highly essential that we eliminate insecurity so that Nigeria is a beautiful brand and bride in the business environment. You talk of our oil, we have the largest deposit of proven gas in Africa. We have the second largest deposit of bitumen in the world. We have various, blessings that we can tap into. So my advice is that from what I'm seeing, in fact, you can see the walls of opposition crumbling gradually. It's no longer, you can see, personalities from different parties coming together. In fact, I was monitoring the Johanese already engaging their in-law, Akpabio. So you see the Northwest. So we need to balance all this, and they are asking for additional states. So the National Assembly will look at it. Does the Southeast deserve additional states? There are 5 states there now. Give them the 6th one. We have 2 bridges now going into Anambra State. It would be a bad idea if we have 2 states coming. These are issues. How do we ensure that the ports are active in the southeastern part of the country? Now we have discovered oil in the northern part of the country. The commonwealth of this nation is for the common good. And like I said earlier, we may be differentiated by the caps we wear and our dresses and languages, but the needs of this nation, as long as we are together, is summarized by what we have in Section 15 of our Constitution that talks about the motto of Nigeria: unity, faith, peace, and progress. So when we bring that sense of unity, objectivity, balance, and equity, then we can have faith in the project Nigeria. And when you have faith in the project, you can only support that project. So agitations are diminished, we have peace, and we can progress. We need to progress, definitely, as a nation. How can our refineries work? I agree with Honorable Alabi that the main job is the oversight. We need to go out there, look at what is being done, and then let's also see, and he admitted the issue of the costly system of government that we have in the country. The National Assembly has the power also to say, let's have all these agencies. What are their relevance? Can we bridge them? Can we bring all this together? Because right now, Nigeria must step into the mode of prudence if we are going to make any sense from the new curve we have. So once again, I want to congratulate the National Assembly and to say that all eyes are on them. And what is the assignment?
Right.
It's in Section 4 of our Constitution, the peace, order, and good governance of Nigeria. And I recommend that you can study some of the templates I mentioned here, particularly Denmark and Switzerland. So you represent the people. And I look forward to a season where the National Assembly members will be delivered from dependence economy, where you have to be sponsoring people in your locality. Develop people, like Sheikh Zayed did in the UAE and Lee Kuan Yew did in Singapore. Develop people, and you won't have people coming to collect money for naming ceremony and the different kinds of things that we place unnecessary burden on you. And I think we are at the precipice now of becoming a great nation.
Right. I believe that Honorable Alabi would like to react to some of the things that you mentioned, because he was smiling just now, especially with regards to developing people that you represent.
Barrister Jide said a lot of things, and he said quite a few things, so I definitely can respond to all. Well, I tell you, it's going to be a big relief to politicians if we have a working country, if we have a working economy. There's no politician you meet that don't have a huge list of personal requests, from I need to do this, school fees, hospital bills, I want to celebrate my child's birthday. And it's because the system is not working. If the hospitals are there for free, they wouldn't need to come to me to ask me for money, right? So we are, both the executive arm and us, we have a big challenge ahead of us. Nigeria must work. We don't have any excuse. And now we're talking about the collaboration between them. Now we have the collaboration. We don't have any excuses. We must set Nigeria on the path to greatness. I can be talking a lot about bills. Barrister Jide said something. What the people don't really care about what we're doing. They just want to know what's in it for us. They don't care about exclusive list. They don't care about concurrent list. They don't care about what oversight is. They don't care. You see, the legislature and the executive, we can do things and have success on the macro level, macroeconomics, but the people don't care about the macro. The executive can talk about GDP, can talk about some data, some external reserve. That's the macro. But the people care about the micro. How much is my transport fare? Is the road good from where I'm going to the next? Is my salary going to go up? That's the micro. So we can talk about the macro all day, but until the people start to see the micro, they're not going to be happy with us. So it's important that while we lay a great foundation, while we do the right things, we must make sure things get down to people. We have no excuses, I tell you. There's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, talking about a lot of work to be done, you have mentioned, Honorable Alabi, that there is a lot of work that the National Assembly does. It's not just the plenary, and we all agree. But however, the workings of the National Assembly and the members, not a lot of people understand how the mechanics of all of the metrics of all of the things you do. Talk to us from the prism of public engagement and communication. The National Assembly, people need to, because they are, or you are, the representative of the people themselves, even more than closer than who the president is. So speak to us from that angle of engaging, communicating properly to the people in such a way that constituents understand what their representatives are doing, what bills they are sponsoring, and sometimes even them having inputs into some of these exercises.
I think maybe one thing we can do is to start by empowering our media and communications department. Honorable Benjamin Kalu, the current deputy speaker, was the spokesman of the House, and he did a lot of work. And I used to tell him, like, I don't envy your job. Or you face the press all the time, they attack you and all. I said, I don't envy you. So he was doing it on his own because of his passion for the House, because of his competence, because of his sagacity and confidence. But the committee itself, or that arm, should be well strengthened, because there's a lot we do. Barrister Jide really broke it down. We can say 3 or 4 duties, right? It was basically one duty, but it was spread around. Lawmaking, we make laws. We edit existing laws and we make new laws. What is that thing that you think is going to help maybe this particular industry or this particular set of people? Bring it on, get a lawmaker, because it's not everything, we don't know everything. Get a lawmaker, and I've put myself out there from different social media platforms. I say, use me, bring any idea. We put it in, because the rigorous steps to get a bill passed from the initial stage to the final stage. That's why I was very passionate about Honorable Tajudeen Abbas, because we'll be able to pass over 20-something bills in 4 years. So that's one part. Then the oversight, the executive arm of government. How are you spending this money? Why are you doing this? Why are you granting this license? What's going on? You have to come and answer to the people, right? Then we have representation. I have to represent Egbedo and our federal constituency. I have to try and attract projects. I have to try and make sure that in our budget that things are going to be done in my constituency. And we got that from the United States Congress as well. It's called the pork barrel in the United States Congress. So these are some of the things we do. Appropriation, control of funds. Appropriation is still part of lawmaking, because the budget is an act. We look at what the executive arm wants to spend money on. By the time we go on recess and come back, we'll start talking about the 2024 budget. Why do you say you want to buy this generator? Why did you say you want to buy these cars? Explain to us. So these are every single thing happening in Nigeria boils down to lawmaking. If you're attending a school, maybe University of Ibadan. University of Ibadan was set up as a law. It's a law establishing it. If you're working at FIRS, it's a law establishing FIRS, right? Your salary is a law of appropriation that's administering it. So it's so crucial, and it's the bedrock of democracy. Without lawmaking, without the legislature, we can as well have a military rule, because if you look at other kinds of government outside democracy, monarchical system, military rule, there's the executive and there's the judiciary. There's a difference between democracy and these other kinds of government is the legislature. So it's our symbol, it's the bedrock. And that's why we must all support the legislature. We must all make it stronger, because that's what's going to make our democracy strong. America is strong today because their democracy is strong. If we want Nigeria to be strong, our democracy must be strong, and we must back the National Assembly to succeed, not scapegoat the National Assembly.
Right. Let me bring this conversation back to the studio. You mentioned some things earlier, talking about the removal of fuel subsidy, what kind of laws they will be pushing forward to addressing the matter of cushioning the effect of the removal on Nigerians. and some other issues, talking about security matters. He has said that they will be also looking at some bills. I wonder what you expect in specific terms with regards to bills to be passed to addressing these issues.
You know, for instance, laws are made for the people. So from experience, the last elections prompted some concerns. Can you recall that electoral act again and see what the issues are, attend to it? Now we have the education loan bill that has been translated into an act. How do you implement it that it doesn't just come as a law on paper? When the Petroleum Industry Act came out, many people celebrated. I did not. We have transformed NNPC to NNPC Limited, but with zero remittance to Federation account. I mean, I think that is cosmetic to me, you know, because NNPC was established 1st of April 1977. So, and with the intentions then is to deliver prosperity to the people. Like I mentioned, the first loan we got in 1961 was to construct a dam, successful project. So how do we ensure that we have electricity? How do we ensure that we bring the burden, the cost down for the people? How do we build on our transportation? How do we liaise with states? Because the attention, we have so much of attention on the federal government. What about the states? What are the things going on there? You know, like the president and commander-in-chief brilliantly pointed out, that Nigeria is like a big house with 36 rooms. You know, we are all in the same house. We may come out of different rooms. And I think Abuja is the sitting room of the, of the big house. Let's face the reality. Yeah. This thing is summarized in 3 words. You talk about dreams, aspirations, and well-being. Those were the driving forces in the heart of Lee Kuan Yew when Singapore left Malaysia in 1965. Our dreams, our aspirations. And what was that aspiration? To translate Singapore from a third world country to a first world country. And of course, the well-being of the people. And today, Singapore is one of the best places to live and to work in the world. So, and with the quality of representation I've seen in this 10th National Assembly, it must indeed be an unusual one. And, you know, I was doing a profiling of the major victors now. You talk of Akpabio. I've been to Akwa Ibom. I'm impressed. You see, you look at the antecedents. So if you have replicated the kind of good rules and infrastructure you're having, then now it's about the people. And Ashwaji is also telling them, let's move, you know, it's about the people. How can we enhance the quality of life? How can we, health facilities, very important in this country. It is a tall one, and it may be difficult to run through the National Assembly, but I look forward to a season like Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream, where public officials will not be allowed to go abroad for Medicare, so that it will compel us to develop our capacity, and our citizens who are doctors out there will return. The same in education. So these are issues. Famine, right. Insecurity, deal with it. Let's produce food. Nigeria is the most blessed country in the world. Let's benefit.
Right. Let's quickly ask Honorable Alabi with regards to the matter of not allowing our public officers go outside of the country for medical treatment. Is that part of what the National Assembly, the 10th National Assembly, would be looking at?
We have to wait for the Speaker to roll out his agenda. But if it's a bill anybody wants to sponsor, why not? Bring it to the floor, let's debate. I'm the kind of person that always welcome every kind of idea, no matter how it sounds at first glance. Look, the first set of people that said they should abolish slave trade, they sounded mad then. Those that said blacks and everyone else should have equal rights, they can vote and all that, they sounded mad, right? Those that said let's end apartheid in the early days, they sounded mad, right? So if you bring any law, if anybody brings an idea, let's stop this, let's cancel this, by all means, let's bring it to the floor. Lawmaking.
Can you push that on behalf of Nigerians?
Well, I have so many bills that I've lined up, especially that's going to affect my constituency and my the parts of the country that I'm, different sectors of the country that I'm interested in. I'm going to roll that out and start. Personally, it's not something I've thought of that I'm going to sponsor as a bill, but I can't sponsor all bills, right? But I'm more than welcome to rigorously debate any. Look, you have to look at all sides of the coin. There's a day someone was talking to me about a bill that you should not allow, the law that we have currently, that you should not allow, should not operate a foreign bank account. On the surface, this sounds like a good idea. So I was speaking to a friend in the UK, a British Nigerian, and I said, "Come on, you should come home and come and contribute your quota. You should be able to maybe an appointment or even come and contest." And another day, then we go talking about this law, and he said, "So are you telling me I'm going to close all the accounts that I'm paying my mortgage from?" And I said, well, it would be a good idea to look at that law. But if you bring out that kind of law now and say, you know what, you can be in office and operate bank, people will say, no, it's because they want to steal money. So we have to really balance these arguments and argue it out and make laws because the laws we're making is not just for us, those that are coming behind us. So laws, I'm open to all kinds of laws. Let's debate it. Let's move Nigeria forward.
Absolutely. And that's a fine place to leave the conversation this morning. We must thank you, spokesman, Joint Task Forum, Member, House of Reps, representing Egbeda Onara, Oyo State, Honorable Akin Alabi, for your time on the program, as well as lawyer, public affairs analyst, Jide Ologun, for your time on the program as well. Thank you.
God bless Nigeria.
Thank you, gentlemen. Right.